Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back. Sorry I've been gone. It's been almost a month since my last video, pretty sure. And I'm just gonna say I've been gone because I just had Easter holidays, and I just couldn't find the best opportunity to post. But I'm back, and I'm back after what was probably a second best, probably the best race of the season right now out of the three. It depends who you are. If you're a Ferrari fan, it's the worst race of the season. But if you're Red Bull, it's your favorite. And this video is gonna be talking about. We're gonna talk about a little bit of Chinese Grand Prix, what we saw, and then we'll talk about the main focus, which is Max Verstappen. Because spoiler alert, if you didn't watch the race, Max Verstappen collided again with a Ferrari, which is almost, or had an incident with a Ferrari, which is just a part of his driving, I guess we can call it now, is to have something done with the Ferraris. Um, so we'll quickly talk through the race, and then we'll talk about Max Verstappen. So we had Vettel, Raikkonen 1-2, and then followed by Bottas, Hamilton, and then Verstappen, Ricardo. And really, the start, Vettel gets the start, he cuts off Raikkonen on the turn, he tries to avoid or whatever, and they start mixing positions, and Raikkonen drops back to third, and Raikkonen drops back to fourth, Bottas second, and Verstappen third. He has a great start. And then throughout the race, it just seemed like one of the usual kind of race where the front runner creates a gap to second place, and then there's just even more gaps. And it looked like just Bottas and Vettel were faster than the other two. Not the other two, the rest of the field. They were just doing just the regular Vettel post a lap time, trying to save the tires and trying to keep a gap. Bottas stays at least 2 seconds behind, or at least 2 seconds, to keep his tires and engine cool and to be away from that dirty air. And there was the Red Bulls were looking well, at this point Verstappen was looking pretty good, pretty decent, because he was on the ultra softs. He gained the places that he needed, so the strategy was favoring him at this point to go on for the podium, and who knows, maybe even the win later on, depending on how the strategy went for them. And yeah, he was losing touch. Tires were going off, but he was creating a gap to Raikkonen and Hamilton behind. So he was looking pretty good. Ricardo was looking all right, but we weren't really sure what he could do because the tires were pretty worn at that point going into it. Because he was also on the ultra softs, and he was stuck behind Hamilton and Raikkonen. And he's not going to get past with worn tires and a worse engine than the Ferrari and the Mercedes. So. And then they're the first to pit. They double stack. Red Bull does, which was pretty entertaining. Really crazy strategy there, because if they had messed up Verstappen on the pit stop, they would have ruined Ricardo and Verstappen's race, obviously. And so yeah, that happens. They do the change, and then Bottas comes in. And here's what gets crazy. Vettel had the gap, he comes in and he loses somehow. The undercut works. Bottas has a flyer. The pit stop isn't too good from Ferrari, so they get stuck there. Everybody pit stops, whatever. Raikkonen, they leave him out to dry. They absolutely said screw it to Raikkonen. Ferrari did, and that's what really annoyed me, because Ferrari, everybody knows, plays the number 1 and number 2 driver. They have those roles cleared out, and the issue I have with it is that it's not like last season where Raikkonen was nowhere some races and then he was up at the top other races. This guy has been faster than Vettel every session almost, except for the race wins in Q3 in Bahrain and China. Other than that, he's been miles ahead of Vettel, it feels like, and it's probably the best Raikkonen we've seen at Ferrari since he's returned. And so when they left him out to dry like that, I understood what they were trying to do, but it really wasn't fair to Raikkonen, because Yeah, what's he gonna do? They've done that so many times and it never works. It's just like they tried a little. They try to do it, and I deep down I think they knew that it wasn't gonna work, and it was just whatever. So Raikkonen pits, but he's on fresher tires. He's been on along for a while on the thing for a while, on the soft. So he's going mediums, but he's got a lot of catching up to do. So he's like he's a pit stop behind, like the 25 seconds. But then there's a safety car, and here's where dice is up. The only drivers to switch tires are Ricardo and Verstappen. They go into the softer compound, and here's where it gets a little spice. They're on the faster tire, and they just start booking. At this point, you're looking at Verstappen, and you're like, this kid could do something, you know. Not just Verstappen, Ricardo too. You're looking at him, and you're saying, these boys are gonna do something. I think Verstappen does a mistake trying to pass Hamilton, and Ricardo goes in front of him. I think that's what happened. I can't remember because there was a point where I missed a little bit of the race doing something. But yeah, and then Ricardo starts flying by. He starts doing these dive bombs like you see me do in this game or something. And he's making it work. Every overtake he goes for, it works. And then Verstappen's making these overtakes, he's making it look decent. And then he gets to Vettel. They collide because Verstappen just goes for the move. It's like last minute thinking, goes for the move, and it ruins both their races. Verstappen ends up, I think, getting to third, getting the 10-second time penalty, getting pushed down. And then Vettel has damage. The tires are just destroyed at that point, and he finishes, I think it was 8th or 9th. He couldn't get by Hulkenberg, and then Alonso just absolutely throws his ass off the road, which was just like good to see in terms of seeing Alonso be aggressive. But for me, because I'm a Ferrari fan, really hurt a little bit. But yeah, so then I'll just quickly go through the race winner. Ricardo ends up dominating that last bit, wins, followed by Bottas. Raikkonen finds his way on the podium, then Hamilton, and then Verstappen because of the 10-second time penalty. And then it goes, what's his face, Hulkenberg, Alonso, Vettel, and I can't remember the rest. But yeah, so that was just a pretty bad rundown of the race. Now here's where I really want to talk about, and that's Verstappen as a driver. Man, this kid's a future champion. There's no doubt about it. The issue is that his age showed today, and it's not the first time that his age has shown in a race. I think probably one of the biggest incidents was Monaco 2015, his first season. You saw he was doing those insane moves by following Vettel when people were lapping. When Vettel was overtaking lapped cars, Verstappen followed, and you were like, this kid, he's got it. You're seeing these things that you don't see too often. He's an opportunist. And then he made a couple overtakes legitimately, right, throughout the race, and you're like, this kid's pretty good. He's something special. It was in a Toro Rosso too. And then he had the collision with Grosjean, which is probably one of the most insane crashes I've seen at Monaco, and just in general too. But you see that, and really incidents like that happen. Really, everybody's done it. He moves on the next race. There's a lot of questioning, probably because he was really young at the time. He was 17 at the time of the incident, so obviously they're questioning him or whatever. But he goes on, has a great season. 2016, he goes to Red Bull after like 4 races. And the first race for Red Bull, he wins, and then he really showed he was something special. And then throughout that season, it started this whole moving while braking rule, and then it was terrible. Big incident number 1 that I can remember. There's probably a couple before this, but Hungary with Raikkonen. He really was a little weird there, where he damaged Raikkonen's front wing, ruined his race. It was while coming out of turn 1, DRS. Raikkonen was making the move, and he turned into him, broke his front wing. I don't think he got anything for that. And then Spa, the next race, there was an incident with Raikkonen again. it was the same thing. It was frustrating for both. I mean, no, frustrating for Ferrari, because it felt at that point you're like there started to become that little rivalry between Raikkonen and Verstappen, and then we go to Mexico, and that's where it's just like what the hell is this? Um, Vettel goes on just a different strategy compared to everybody else, and he has the pace to make it on the podium. He gets to Verstappen, he makes the move, and then Verstappen goes off the track, stays in front. Vettel gets a little angry. One, because it's been a rough season for Ferrari. They hadn't won a race all year. And two, it's just what Verstappen did wasn't fair, and he wasn't given the place back. And then while he was focused on just going off on Verstappen, he does what he turns while braking on Ricardo, and there's that whole fight. Verstappen makes it on the podium. They kick him off. They put Vettel on the podium, and then Ricardo gets it in the end afterwards. Insane stuff. And then we move on to 2017. There's a little bit of stuff going on. I think the one I can remember was Silverstone, where Vettel makes a move and he kind of pushes Verstappen off. There's probably something in there that happened. I just can't remember right now. I should have looked. But it moving on. Oh, Singapore, but that's Vettel's fault, I think. But there's stuff like that. And then now we saw it in Bahrain with Hamilton, and then we see it in China. In Bahrain, he tried to push Hamilton off the track, and instead they collided. Hamilton didn't yield, puncture for Verstappen. His race was over. And then in China, the dive bomb, well, starts off fine, then it kind of turns into dive bomb and takes Vettel out. And my discussion now is like, I don't know. I just wanted to talk about basically how it's just a little annoying, because this kid's got talent, but he's just, the way the not the Formula One treats him is just a little. They love him. He's the face. He's the face of Formula One. He's supposed to be the face. Man, this kid's got talent, and they know it, and they want him to be the face of Formula One. And it's just frustrating, because it just feels like we're being robbed. As well, for me, I feel like Ferrari was robbed that race. We weren't gonna win that race, but really, in terms of the championship, it's helped Hamilton out, who ever since Australia, after qualifying, hasn't looked at himself. And as a Ferrari fan, I'm loving it, because we need to be taking advantage of it. But we did in Australia and Bahrain in terms of driver championship. And here okay, Bottas was gonna win the race, but at least we were gonna get some big points on Hamilton, who was the closest challenger to Vettel, and both Ferraris were gonna score some solid points. So we were gonna keep the fight in the constructors. And then something like that happens with Verstappen, who is obviously he wants to beat everybody else in terms of racing position. But it shows that he's got a lot to learn, really. It's just moments like those where his age just shows, where he just doesn't have that experience. Like, so we talked about Bottas. Like, here's where I think Bottas showed his experience. Obviously, in Bahrain, people kind of criticized him for not making that dive bomb. Right, but I don't think he had the confidence to do it, and I don't think, and he knew, and I feel like he knew exactly what was gonna happen. He didn't want to risk anything. He was willing to take the second place, which sometimes it may not be the most glamorous spot, but second place sometimes you gotta play it safe, and I think that's what Bottas did, and it showed. It shows now with the Verstappen incident. Verstappen wasn't patient. He had better chances to pass Vettel than Bottas did, and yet Bottas did a better job, even though he didn't even pass Vettel. So it just shows that, like, Verstappen lacks that experience, even though he's been here now. I don't know. Is this his third year? No, it's his fourth. This is his fourth year. It's his second. It's his first full year with a big team like Red Bull. No, it's not. It's his second full year. But yeah, like we're talking about, everybody says he's a future champion, he's a future champion, and I'm one of those people. I am, but right now it's just some moves, some things that he does. It just shows the experience, and it could end up costing him championships. We've seen many times how certain things cost championships. Last year, 100% Vettel's crash in Singapore cost him that championship. Wasn't any other reason. Maybe Japan would have played a big effect where he didn't finish the race, but I'm pretty sure it felt like a domino effect from Singapore. After Singapore, it just went downhill. So I think Singapore is what cost Vettel the championship, and I could see Verstappen losing a championship in the future from stuff like that, where he lacks the patience and stuff. Honestly, now if I had made this video after the race, I probably would have been a lot more heated. But I've had time to think about it, and in terms of if you're a Verstappen fan, for the future, stuff like this is probably going to help him because you'll learn from it. And if you're not a Verstappen fan, or if Verstappen's not on your favorite team as a driver, then I think we should be worried, because this man will be a machine, I believe, in the future. I think this year is he might get a couple wins, who knows? Season's long, a lot of things can happen. Red Bull could become the fastest team like Ferrari did after Australia. One race can change everything we've seen in terms of pace, and I really do believe in tracks like Monaco, Singapore, Hungary. Red Bull will be battling with Ferrari. I think that's where Mercedes will lose a lot of points. So yeah, in terms of I've just totally started changing the subject, but Max, I think the incident, the 10 seconds, I feel like was an injustice in my opinion. I felt a little robbed after that, because Vettel's race was just ruined, and I don't know. It just really hurt me after that, and it's not about me. It's about just the sport in general, and I think Max has gotten away with a lot of things as a driver with some of the stuff he did. We saw in 2016 with the Ferrari incident. They clarified the rules and that's what I think they thought would be a punishment for him, so he could stop doing that, and it really was annoying. I don't remember getting punishments. If you do, let me know. But yeah, it was so bad to see. I didn't really like that. It really takes away from him too. It makes me, because I've loved Max Verstappen. The only thing that can make him make me love him even more is if he went to Ferrari, because that kid is going to be a future machine. He might dominate the sport soon if he gets the chance like Vettel did at Red Bull and Hamilton did at Mercedes, where he had the top car. Kid could be a monster. Ricardo is good, and he showed exactly why he is probably at this point better than Verstappen. Ricardo's the best driver at making overtakes, and Verstappen has shown he's made some incredible overtakes in Spa 2015, Brazil 2015, on who was it, Perez. So he's made some great overtakes, there's no doubt about it. But Brazil 2016 in the rain on the outside of Rosberg, there's no doubt about it that Verstappen is good, but at this point Ricardo showed why he's probably the better driver at the moment. Good overtakes, they looked insane, but at the same time I feel like he knew deep down what he wanted to do, exactly what he needed to do. Verstappen on that one, he switched it and he said screw it, we're changing it, and that's probably what caused the incident. So honestly, I think there's nothing really as a Ferrari fan you can do to change the to change that whole thing, other than Raikkonen got a podium. He deserved a podium. He deserved more, but he got a podium. If you're a Formula 1 fan, out of 3 races, I think every race has had a pretty big moment. Australia was that virtual safety car where Vettel came out ahead of Hamilton. Bahrain was the those final 10 laps with Vettel, Bottas, and here was the Red Bull's charge at the end. So far 3 races, I think this has been the best start to a season that we've had in a long time. Best start that I can remember was probably 2012, and I don't think anything will ever top 2012 ever, because 2012 seven races, 7 different winners. But this year I think is probably going to be the closest we've seen between 3 teams in a long time. Everybody was hoping McLaren could come in, but that isn't the case. Yeah, now to probably pretty much wrap up this video, what's next? Alright, next is the Baku Grand Prix. Baku. So last year we had the infamous Vettel Hamilton incident, and wow, looking back on it, sucked, because we should have won that race, because Hamilton got unlucky with whatever was coming off, his neck rest or whatever. But yeah, my prediction for that race, it's probably gonna be Mercedes 1-2 in terms of pace. Ferrari has shown that they've got a nice engine this year. Yeah, I think they can. They probably could. They won't be a second off like last year or whatever the hell the gap was. They'll probably be closer, but I don't know. I'm not really too confident about that race. It's not really one I'm excited for in terms of Ferrari winning it, because they've got a better chance than Red Bull. But as we saw last year, Red Bull did win that race, and Renault definitely has the worst engines out of the less competitive engines out of Mercedes and Ferrari. Honda being excluded out of that question. But yeah, anything is possible. You never know. My prediction for it will be probably Bottas on pole, Hamilton second, Raikkonen, Vettel, and then Grosjean, Magnussen, and then the Red Bulls. Then for the race win, I think it's going to stay the same way. No, I think for the race win, it's going to be Bottas, Hamilton, Vettel, Raikkonen, because Ferrari will probably try and keep Vettel, maximize the points that he can get for less damage. But the reason I say Bottas to win the race is because what's it called? He's been better than Hamilton. Other than Australia, he's been better than Hamilton. And one thing I've noticed is when Hamilton struggles with the tires, when Mercedes' tires, like, they struggle to find that sweet spot, Bottas is better. We saw it last year in Monaco, Hungary, and where else? Russia. When the tires weren't suiting Mercedes cars, Bottas was able to extract the pace, and he was faster than Hamilton by quite a bit. This year we saw it in Bahrain. What did I say? I said we saw it there where Bottas was able to outpace Hamilton in 1 lap pace and throughout the race. And then there was this race where he was challenging for the win. He was about to win until Bottas was about to win until the safety car. So yeah, I think the Bottas has ever since Australia, he's been quicker than Hamilton. So I think that will be my running order. I will do another video probably on it. But until then, hopefully this video is probably all over the place, but I'll title it correctly for you guys. That's all I had to say. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.